Hey there, I was asked a great question recently. Can we have too many scoreboards up and around the office? Well, in theory you can have too much of anything, but for scoreboards, most of us don't have enough. Here's how to really make them count. Stay tuned. Hey there, Ian here once again, and it's a pleasure to be able to be with you. I hope this is catching you happy, healthy and strong. Scoreboards give us information that help us on our journey to achieving something. This great question was asked in the context of already displaying some information. We had personal goals, we had the quarterly targets, and we're also going to publish the core values, the actions to live by, the mini themes, the big scoreboards for the years ahead. And the question was, well, can we have too many? And my answer was that for most of us, we don't have enough. You can have too much of anything, but the chances are that we don't have sufficient scoreboards to give us a really good picture of how we are progressing. Think of it this way. When you drive your car, you have many different scoreboards that are displaying information to you. We have the speed that we're going, we have the rev counter, we have the distance gone, we have the fuel gauge, we have the gear settings, and we have other indicators that tell us how we're doing. Now, we don't get overwhelmed by all of those different inputs. We pay attention to the one that's most useful for us at that stage in our journey. And the same goes for scoreboards. Now, before we get into, okay, how do we use scoreboards, I've got three ways to win and 3 how to do it later on. But think of situations that cause frustration in our lives, like a plane or a train being late, or a result that's happening that is not in our favour. Is it actually the situation itself that we're frustrated about, or is it that we don't know enough about the situation? Think of a plane being late. If that's all that you're told, we're very sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but your plane is delayed. That can be quite frustrating because we don't know why the plane's delayed and we don't know when it might arrive. A scoreboard would tell us that. If we're given information about where the plane is, it's half an hour delayed due to air traffic control issues, and we expect it to be here in 30 minutes. That puts us at ease because we can see more information. And that's what a scoreboard can tell us. So often we're not frustrated about the situation, it's that we don't have enough information. And when we don't have enough information, we make up our own story. We make up our own version of events, and it's normally wrong and it's normally bad. So how do we win with scoreboards? Here are my top 3 wins for scoreboards. First of all is that it makes the work visible. It makes work visible. We can see how we're doing and we can link our job to some kind of a result. It makes it visible. The second benefit of a scoreboard is a much higher level of accountability. Think of posting a number that you are accountable for on the wall where everybody can see it. You're probably going to want to move that number, move that score, just because everybody can see it. It doesn't put you under pressure or stress for doing that unless your environment is particularly constructed that way. But if you put a score on the wall, it naturally helps you become accountable for moving it forward. And the same applies to your team. If that's your team's number, your team become more accountable for moving that forward. And that's a good thing for your own progress and the progress of the company. And lastly is the word progress, of course. A phrase that I like to use often is, if you want to be happier, make progress. If we work very hard but we can't see our progress, our work is just a job. But if we can see our progress towards something, we've got a much more emotional connection between our tasks and a result. And that's a good thing if we want to move forward. So there are my top 3 ways to win with scoreboards. My top 3 hows. So how do we get this done? Here are 3 basic rules. There are more, but these are my 3 basic rules for how to implement your scoreboards. Firstly, make sure that someone is responsible for updating the score. If it doesn't fall to a specific person, it's probably not going to get done. So there must be somebody who is responsible for updating the score. And it doesn't have to be pretty. It can be on a whiteboard with a marker pen. It doesn't have to be pretty. It can be, for sure, on a digital display screen somewhere. It can be made to look more sophisticated, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a piece of paper. It can be on a whiteboard. Secondly, it has to be accurate. If the score is there, but the numbers aren't accurate, then we're going to make the wrong decisions. So it has to be accurate enough to be useful. Now, that doesn't mean that it has to be accurate to the 3rd decimal place or whatever. It doesn't have to be, scrubbed and dried and processed, but it has to be good enough to make decisions. And lastly, how? One of the most vital things with any scoreboard is that it has to be discussed on a regular basis, at least weekly. And the same goes for updating the score, by the way. Any score that's more than a week old is, I won't say useless, but it loses most of its power. If we do it every month, my basic benchmark is daily if you can, but at least weekly. So it needs to be visited weekly as well. If the score is just there but no one does anything about it, you can be off course for a long time but there's no action. So make sure that the score is discussed again at least on a weekly basis. Are we on target? Are we ahead? Are we behind? What corrective actions can we use to keep us on track? And if it's really, really important, a daily discussion is what is needed. So make sure someone's responsible, at least weekly, for updating it. Make sure it's accurate enough to make decisions, and make sure that you visit it on a regular basis, at least weekly, daily if it's really, really important, and have that discussion. So I really hope that did make sense. Always get it down, then get it right. If you're finding that your scoreboards aren't working, what I'd rather we try is get stuff on the wall, make stuff visible. And if it's not particularly useful, we can change it, we can replace it with something that is useful, but start keeping score today. And I think that you'll be surprised at the results. So I really hope that was useful. There's a couple of extra ways that I can help you if you're interested, at the bottom of the message or in the description below. And until next time, take care of each other, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.